Howdy, welcome to Horticulture Innovators, a podcast series where we will explore impactful innovations in horticulture. I'm Amit Dhingra, your host. I'm a professor and head of the Department of Horticultural Sciences at Texas A&M University. In each episode, we'll explore the inspiring stories of the pioneers who are contributing to sustainability, wellness, and food security through their amazing work in horticulture. Howdy, and welcome to yet another episode of Horticulture Innovators. Today, it's my distinct honor and pleasure to have you, Anna, here. Anna Ball is the CEO and the chairman of the largest horticulture company in the world. It's amazing to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, it's lovely to be here.
Well, just want to have a conversation, and there are so many questions I have for you to just discuss because, I want to start at the core of one of the issues we've talked about and we know about. Horticulture. The term is lost from our American parlance, our vocabulary. How do we change that, and how do we inform the parents, and how do we inform the kids who are trying to look for professions, fulfilling professions, that this is one of those professions?
That's a great question. Maybe that's the most important question, right, for the future of horticulture. And I used to kind of think, oh, there must be a way to do that, right, like quickly and let's do it. And I think what I've learned is that, no, it's a slow process. We got to attack that challenge in a whole bunch of different ways. And it's the parents are a part of the big problem because the parents have a view of horticulture that's not very positive, low-paying, sweaty jobs. And so we got to work on the parents, but we really need to work on the kids as well. So there's lots of ways of doing it. We have an organization called Seed Your Future that's been working on it for 10 years, and we've made some progress. You just have to get the word out there, and you have to figure out how to explain horticulture in terms that young people understand instead of in terms that we use, and explain. They're very interested in the things that plants can do, the power of plants, the sustainability, those things. You have to approach them with those things that they can do, which are very important and real, and talk to them in terms of things that are important to them. So that's one thing I've learned. I can't talk to them in terms of what I like about horticulture, but maybe what they'd be interested in, which are things that are very important as well.
Well, I know this is a common subject matter that we are all very passionate about. But before I continue further on this, I just wanted to learn more about, for our listeners and everybody who's curious about horticulture, about Ball Horticulture. How did that company came to be, and how it became one of the largest companies in the world?
Well, it all started with my grandfather, who was a very unusual guy. He left home at 14 and was not formally educated, yet he became a writer, a book writer, and a very educated man, and that was really self-taught. He ran away from home at 14 because he hated his stepmother, so it's kind of the classic story, right? And he got some jobs in greenhouses. Then he went into the Spanish-American War. He fought in the Philippines, and he fought in Cuba. He kept a daily journal for 50 years, and actually the most interesting part of the journal is his wartime efforts. It was really horrible experiences. But then he came back, and he got more jobs, and then he wanted to start his own company. So he started his own greenhouse cut flowers. So he grew cut flowers, grew them, cut them, put them on the train, shipped them down to the Chicago market, where they were sold in the Chicago market. And he was a curious guy, so he started to develop better varieties of flowers, and he became a self-taught breeder. And then he connected to other breeders in Japan and in Germany because flower seed is very small and transportable, so you can put it in your pocket, and can't do that now, but you did that then, and trade with different breeders. So he became very good friends with Mr. Sakata in Japan and people in Germany, and it's been an international industry that whole time. So he became a breeder. People said, hey, I want some of those things I want some of that seed. So he got in the seed business. It started on his kitchen table with his wife packeting the seed, and it just kind of grew from there. So It has a kind of a cool cut flower. Really was because there were no bedding plants or pot plants then. It was all a cut flower industry. So that's how it started with cut flowers.
Wonderful. And then after that, the next generation.
So then my father, he was first generation. My father was a second, and he grew. He got us diversified into a whole bunch of bedding plants and different companies, and he made acquisitions, and he really grew our business in Europe. And then I'm the third generation, and my daughter's the fourth generation. So we're fourth generation, and we work very hard to keep it as a family business. But it's not easy. It's very challenging.
Well, you said family business, and in today's world where corporate culture is dominant, it's all quick turnarounds of things. Can you speak to a little bit about how your company has stayed family-owned yet has a global footprint?
Yes, it's very, very challenging to keep the family culture and to make sure it's spread around all over the world. And we don't do it perfectly, but we work on it every day. We really my daughter and I consider ourselves not owners of the company, but stewards of the company, which is a little bit of a different thing than an owner, because a steward has the responsibility of passing it down better than he or she found it. You don't have the right really to sell the company if you are a steward. So we're trying to call ourselves stewards instead of owners. It's an interesting shift in mentality, but it really helps a lot. And we have a company that is very fights bureaucracy every day. We try not to have big employee handbooks. We have 5 sort of seeds of success that we follow. And we try to get those in each of our locations around the world, because those really reflect the family culture. And it's a tough thing to do, but you have to work on it. Maintaining a culture, and especially a family culture, is something that you have to work on every single day. It never goes away. So especially as you grow, because as you grow, you tend to get more bureaucratic, just because a larger organization has to have more bureaucracy to keep itself standing. Yeah. So you have to fight it more and more, and you have to fight it sort of all the time. And I consider it a fight because I really despise bureaucracy for no reason. There's good bureaucracy and there's no reason. So that's the family culture.
Well, you mentioned seeds of success, and I've seen when I visited your facility, it's right on the wall as you enter as well. Could you talk about those? Share with us, what are those 5 seeds of success?
Yeah, we came up with these about 30 years ago, and we have translated them into all of our languages of where we are, and we talk about them all the time, every day. And employees tell me that they even use them in their family life, which is wonderful to me, but also makes me feel very responsible. The main one a very important one is never sacrifice the long term for the short term. So many of our competitors are private equity owned or public company owned, and they have a shorter term horizon. They have to. We have a 100-year term horizon because we want to be around for another 100 years. So we have to think long term. If we try to do something for short term and we sacrifice the long term, we will not be around for 100 years. And that will hurt everybody, our customers, our employees, and us. So that's the key. That's a very key difference. And that's very hard to do sometimes because, first of all, you have to make a decision on what the decision is, and then you have to make that decision. And then we have others. One that really differentiates us is run to the hard stuff. We've always kind of tackled the harder things, like whether it's in breeding or production or distribution, like the hard things, because I don't know why, because they're fun to do, and it's cool when you get rewarding when you accomplish them, and you have a lot of failures, but you have to learn to live with it. And I just like running to hard stuff. So we run to the hard stuff, and our employees really respond to that one as well, because that makes them realize that they're doing good work. And then the other ones are communicate. I remember 30 years ago sitting around this trying to come up with these things that reflect our culture, and we couldn't come up with a good way to say communicate. So somebody just got sick of our discussions and just say it 3 times. So that's what we did. We say it 3 times. And then the other one is always do the right thing, which, everybody has that in their kind of their own seeds. But I always say that if we hire the right people and we do a good job of hiring and we do a good job of training, then if they make that decision, we try to push decisions down as far as we can in the organization. If we push the decision down, then they will do the right thing if they stop and think about what the right thing is to do. If they just do anything, they might not think about it. So we always tell them, stop and think about it. So that's really important.
Well, some people go for easy things, and they're not always the right thing.
Yeah, and when you're under pressure, we all do it, right? So you have to stop and think. I said, just stop and think. And if you stop and think, I know you will make the right decision because we hired you and we trained you.
Well, there is scientific evidence for that. Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winner, talked a lot about
fast and slow
thinking, and also about doing the right versus the easy part of life. And I think in business, do you think that so many businesses fail? I know there are monetary pressures, so I don't want to take that away. But I kind of, with my minuscule experience, but you have so much experience, do you feel like companies fail because they try to do the easy thing first and they want to just think about the short term because they're just trying to get to those next 3 years where they can spin off or somebody else can purchase them?
Well, I mean, companies that are in it for like 3 years and are open about that, I mean, they have to do the short-term thinking. So, I mean, that's the way the model's set up. So, in a way, you can't blame them, right? And we see a lot of our competitors going through that, and it's tough on employees. But that's just the way they make money. That's the model. We just don't have that model. So, yeah, I don't like that type of thinking, but it works for some people. So, I think short-term thinking is and a lot of times companies that are even family businesses don't do it on purpose. They just do it because it's an easy route. And sometimes, work is hard, right? Business is hard. It's complicated. You're dealing with a zillion different things. So I can't blame people sometimes for taking the shortcuts, but you got to fight against that.
Yeah. You just mentioned about hiring the right type of people. So I know there are big HR departments elsewhere, and what's your company's approach to hiring the right people? Do you have a lot of selection process that they have to go through? Or?
Yes, we put a lot of emphasis on that because if you hire the wrong person, it's so expensive and it's horrible for everybody. Yeah. So we try to hire the right person, as everybody does. But I mean, I have my own sort of. I look for people who are curious and humble and have a kindness. I think kindness is sort of underrated because if you're kind, you sort of think things through, and you have to. As I told your students, business and everything is all about relationships in the end. Everything's about relationships, right? So if you're not kind, those relationships aren't going to be very well oiled, right? Yeah. So we look for curiosity, and because if you're curious, then you're going to ask good questions, and you're going to find things out, and you're going to be open to new things. If you're not open to new things, you're not going to be a very good employee. And just humility is important because I've seen so many arrogant people fail. Yeah. And it just doesn't work to be arrogant. Besides, personally, I hate arrogant people. So. Yeah.
Well, talking about curiosity, I'm really curious about one thing, which is as you've expanded your footprint globally, do you find that these traits or this human behavior is commonplace and you can find it at every location you've been at?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure how to answer it. I'm always shocked at how different countries have different cultures. When I first started traveling internationally, I was young, I didn't know anything, and there weren't all these books about culture. I've read a bunch of books about different cultures in different countries and how, some are more trusting and some are less trusting and some are open and some are this. And there are all these books that are fascinating. And all I can think of when I read those books is I wish I'd had those when I was traveling because I didn't know anything about the difference. And I was always shocked at how different they are. So in some cultures, curiosity is not a positive trait, right? So they don't want people to be curious. And humility, I don't know about humility, but no, it's not. It's hard. You have to, and we have to trust, and we put a leader in each of our organizations. We're very decentralized, so these guys run their own show, and we have to trust that they hire people that are right. And we can't always tell that. It's very difficult for us. as American managers.
Yeah, I think the challenge with curiosity and humility across other cultures can be that if you're curious, you're asking too many questions. So don't you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Is there something wrong with you?
Yeah.
Are you like?
Or if you're not humble, are you not confident?
Yes.
So I think,
exactly.
but despite that, to fight that, I think those are some traits that can really keep people grounded.
Yeah.
You know.
It works. It works for in American culture for sure, and I think most Western cultures, but a lot of others, it's looked at differently.
So going back to horticulture in general, I mean, I know that Ball Horticulture is primarily focused on ornamental crops, cut flowers to bedding plants and everything. What kind of challenges are you, or have you overcome in the last 30, 40 years that have changed the business?
Disease resistance is one that comes to mind. There's been some diseases, and they're getting worse. If anybody's interested in pathology, you got a good career in horticulture, in the ornamentals. So just overcoming diseases that are already there or that are new diseases, that's a big challenge we've overcome. Seed germination. It used to be very common for seed to germinate at 50, 60, 70%. We've got a lot of things up to 90 and over, which is great for the growers. It's much more efficient for the growers. So seed germination is a big one. What other things? Just recipes on how to grow different crops, which my grandfather actually started. And he was very interesting. He had the philosophy that all information that you develop in your company should be shared with the whole industry. That's why he started his own magazine in 1932, Grower Talks, which is now the main magazine in the United States, because he was frustrated that people wouldn't print his findings quickly enough. So we believe that that's why we're a very transparent company. We believe that all information should be shared. And so when we do come across things like that, we try to get the word out. So those are two things that come to mind. I'm sure there's many others.
Well, that will kind of, where you're coming from, so now you know where you might be going. My paraphrasing my Angela there. But so what do you foresee are the challenges now that are upcoming where our younger generation has an opportunity to contribute and thereby also have some meaningful professions that they can get into?
Mm-hmm. I think the whole plant breeding and biotechnology, which I'll just lump together because they work together very closely, is there's lots of challenges in there, and there's lots of opportunities. So if you have a scientific bent, if you're interested in those areas, there's lots of things to do. Again, disease resistance, working with genetic engineering, working with CRISPR, working with molecular markers. We do a lot with molecular. All those kinds of things are important. And then just old-fashioned plant breeding, which we still do. I mean, making crosses and growing them out and looking for new things. So that's an area that's just there's constant innovation in that. We talked about robotics, automating certain things that are boring to do so that the interesting jobs are left. That's the way I look at robotics. So there's lots going on in there. We don't have a lot of people in horticulture that know about machines. So that's another area. Just the whole way that we market. We talked before about the whole way we market not only horticulture to students, but how we market the product is kind of behind the times, and it's greatly improved in the past 30 years, but we still don't market plants, and they're hard because they're perishable. They get moved around at the store, so your signage gets all messed up. There's lots of marketing things, social media. There's lots of opportunity in that area.
So you're saying that horticulture is like a confluence, like a melting pot where people from multiple disciplines can come in. And I believe if they also had some horticulture training, right, if they had a degree or a minor or some certificate program in horticulture, that would benefit them, don't you think?
Yes, because at least you kind of know what a plant is and you can deal with it. But that's what people don't know. I mean, there's opportunities for everything, for engineers, for artists, for people who like video, people who like social media, people who like accounting. There's IT. Yeah. IT is a big one because horticulturalists aren't very computer savvy just in general. Like I'm not at all. but there's lots of areas that IT can really help the industry. So it's very broad.
So about 3 years ago, our Department of Horticultural Sciences really focused on three mission areas: sustainability, wellness, and food security. And sustainability means different things to different people. For as an academic institution or a unit, for us it means we really want to generate science and knowledge that benefits farmers, bottom line, economic bottom line. And second aspect of that is our students, because how are we going to sustain the future of these industries if we don't train the next generation? And finally, the environment. This is not ranked in any order.
Yeah.
This is the trifecta that feeds into the sustainability concept. And what in your, I think you mentioned sustainability is a big emphasis at Ball Horticulture as well. How do you define sustainability as?
Yeah, that's really tough because everybody has their own definition. So, I mean, you can say sustainability, our number one sustainability job is to keep the company going, right? Yeah. Obviously. Well, okay, that's like too broad for me. Of course, so I tend to think of sustainability a little more narrowly because we're doing the other things already. And what we found is when we started, we had sustainability about 20 years ago, a big push in the industry, and then the recession happened and it kind of went away. Now we've redone it, and it's very different now than it was back then. And what we found is that each one of our locations, sustainability means something completely different to them. In England, it means that they have a little frog or something that's near their thing that they have to, it's endangered, then we can't build greenhouses because of the frog, so they're trying to protect the frog. I mean, all these things. So sort of native areas is important for them. In South Africa, it's all about, getting sustainable products that are drought tolerant. In Chile, it's all about water. In Korea, it's just different things with different people. So we have sort of overall sustainability goals in the organization. Then each one of our locations has their own, and they're very different. And so overall, we're trying to get all of our employees all over the world to make a living wage by 2025 or 2030. I forgot. And living wage is just now being defined, and we're actually helping the people define it because it's so new. But it's the ability to save some money, to send your kids to school. It's not minimum wage, it's living wage. So each one of our countries, we're studying what the living wage is. We're trying to determine, and it's different by city. Like we're in Nicaragua, so it's different by each city in Nicaragua. So you got to get down to the city. And that's very interesting stuff that's very new and very cutting edge. So we want all of our employees to have a living wage, but we're also kind of excited that we're helping the organizations who study that to develop that living wage because we're new people. So that's kind of an example that's a little bit sustainable. Is that sustainability? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it depends on how you define it, right?
So how does Ball Horticulture see wellness? Because I think we heard you speak about wellness quite a bit.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. Well, we care about wellness of our employees, first and foremost. That's super important. But one of the main benefits, we're driven by the power of plants, the idea that plants can transform people. And one of the drivers of that is how plants can contribute to wellness, psychological wellness, mental wellness, and physical wellness. So that's a big push. We've seen that happen. There's studies. We really believe that can happen. And so we're trying to get that message out. We tell it to our employees who really believe it, and we tell it to anybody who will listen, including you. Yes. But you already know it.
Actually, our department also has this emphasis on mental and physical wellness, because some of the products such as pecans that we consume or the fruits and vegetables, I mean, they obviously nourish your body, but then interaction with plants, and our colleague, Professor Charlie Hall, who's the Ellison Chair in International Floriculture. I mean, he's done a lot of work in actually accounting for, through peer-reviewed research, to demonstrate how it really benefits us mentally as well.
And we use his research all the time, so it's fantastic.
And then the third leg for us is food security. I heard you speak about developing new varieties of some of these tomatoes or other aspects that people can you speak a little bit about that? How does an ornamental company primarily impact food security, or how you could also speak about how horticulture is going to be a key player in food security.
Yeah, I think how the broader. I mean, we breed vegetables, but mainly for the home garden.
Okay.
So I mean, people can have their own food security and grow their own products. So that's important.
Yes.
Things that don't get disease for them, things that are prolific, things that taste good. So that's one thing. But the broader horticulture that we're not involved in, I mean, that's super important, and a lot of it goes back to breeding, because you can breed things that just, have high yield and perform and don't fail for people. So that's food security, crops that can grow in a wider climate range or a wider conditions. So breeding is so important.
Well, I've been just amazed by horticultural crops, ornamentals, fruits and vegetables, orchards and nuts. I mean, they can change the local economies because these are very low volume compared to row crops, but very high value.
Yeah.
I mean, have you noticed with your expansion globally? I think you said you have 20 locations, or you are in 23 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
How has opening these centers changed the microeconomy of at least those organizations over there?
We've got some good history of that. We started in Costa Rica in the 60s. And Costa Rica was not what it is today, which is a pretty developed country. And we started it. We have to go to where the climates are right, and then we have to go to rural areas because that's where the land is. We have to build a lot of greenhouses. So we naturally go to places that aren't developed, and Costa Rica is one of them. And the town of Dulce Nombre near Cartago actually grew up around our greenhouses, and everybody in the town called the leader El Capitan. So he was. I think there was 20,000 people at his funeral. So everybody came. They had to have it on a big soccer field. But it grew up around there, and it gave people jobs, and it developed the economy there. And I'm super proud of that, because I think where we go, we try to do great things for our employees, give them health care that they didn't have before. We have doctors and nurses on staff. We have give them things that they didn't have before, careers, and a good pay, so that they can do things for their family and educate their family. So we've done that in Costa Rica. We did it in Guatemala, where we helped the local schools. We've done it in Nicaragua. It's super important, because they're your employees, and we have the philosophy of, we have a big philanthropy push in our company, and the main thing we give to is the communities in which we operate, because it benefits everybody. Yeah. And that is not unusual for horticulture. Our competitors who are in different countries, and sometimes the same countries, they do the same thing. I mean, we're very big cut flower growers in Kenya. They do the same thing.
Well, so this is great that this is the impact on those economies, and it's improving their lives basically. It upgrades that both in terms of education and opportunities as well. So coming back to home, I wanted to go back to the first topic we started with, horticulture. And since your company has a global footprint, but it's truly an American company, American story, my question is, what all is your company doing to really promote the knowledge or awareness about horticulture?
Well, the main thing we're doing is supporting other organizations that are doing that, like Seed Your Future, and Cultivate is doing some things. I mean, some of the trade associations are doing things. So we do that. We try to do it through our employees, tell our employees that, hey, horticulture is not well known, talk to people about it. So we try to educate our employees on the broader field of horticulture, and to talk about it, because we have a lot of employees and they can get the word out. I mean, probably not enough now that you ask. But we've been with Seed Your Future since the very beginning, and we're the main supporter of that. So that's really the way that we're trying to do it, through that organization.
And is this term, or is this discipline still alive and thriving outside of the United States, or is it like a global phenomenon that horticulture is being forgotten as how comprehensive this discipline is?
No, it's not global, because a lot of places horticulture is new. Like like I tell the story that, we can't go into a country until it gets a middle class. So we follow, it's a joke, but it's not. If McDonald's opens, then we go into that country, because at McDonald's studies, is there a middle class that can buy hamburgers? And you have to have a middle class to buy plants. So, but it's fairly new. So you don't have the shortage of people like you do here, because actually I don't know why. I'm sure there's tons of reasons if I thought about it for 10 minutes, but it's not the same pressure. I'd say America is where the issue is. United States and Canada is where the issue is of shortages for our customers.
Yeah. Do you think?
But no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's not really true, because if you look at our customers,
Yeah.
so it's people we can find and our customers. Our growers all over the world, our customers cannot find people. And a lot of it is in the developing countries. It's actually worse, because they want to go to the cities. Kids want to go to the cities. They don't want to stay in the rural areas and work on the greenhouses. So getting people to work in greenhouses is a big challenge in developing countries like Japan, Korea, China. A lot of those Asian countries, people don't, it's the old thing. They don't want to stay on the farm. They want to go to the cities, because that's where the money and everything is. Yeah. So a lot of our customers have to go out of business because they get older and they don't have succession. So succession is the number one issue. Even their kids don't want to stay in the greenhouse. That's a big problem.
Well, we do see a lot of our younger generation is very environmental conscious. They're thinking about ways. Sustainability is big for them. These are some trends that we are seeing. And as robotics is entering to overcome some of the challenges, do you see a marriage of that interest in robotics kind of helping? That could be the next phase of horticulture?
It could be, although I heard in some of the classes I talked to today that there's a sort of an anti-robotics feeling, like, and I get that as well. They want stuff to be handpicked or whatever. But yeah, I think robotics can be, like I said, robotics should get rid of the jobs that are no fun to do, and that are demeaning, and let's get rid of those jobs and leave the interesting jobs. So yes, I think there can be. I think.
Yeah. So what's next as you pass on the company to Susanna, fourth generation? Where is Ball Horticulture headed? I know it's hard to see a crystal ball of future, but.
Yeah, well, I have a kind of a weird philosophy that not everybody agrees with. I don't really believe in setting long-term goals, because I believe you can't predict the future. None of the stuff that's happened in my lifetime was ever predicted, from the population bomb, everybody starving to death, to just all this stuff that nothing was predicted. The recession wasn't predicted. COVID wasn't predicted. Nothing is predicted. So you never know what you're going to get. So to set, okay, by sometimes I get pressure. Okay, what do you want to be by 2030 or 2040? I just don't believe in that. Strategic planning, I think we have to do it, but I don't totally believe in it, really. So we do it, but we do it on a short-term basis, because I believe you have to design your company so that you can handle whatever comes. And so you have to work on the means rather than the ends. I believe in developing means, like really good employees, really good IT systems, really good way that people think. And then whatever comes along, if it's COVID or the recession or whatever, they can deal with it. So I think it's very hard to predict where we're going. And what I tell Susanna is, just keep developing the company that's anti-fragile, and no long-term debt, great employees, great IT systems, and we can do whatever hits us. If the hard stuff hits us, we can do it. Rather than say, I want to be X big or this many countries by such and such. Long-term goals like that don't excite me. I know it's weird, but that's the way I am.
Who's going to outdo success? I mean, the other part, you just used the word anti-fragile. Mm-hmm. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm a big fan of this guy named Nassim Taleb, who is a Lebanese guy who wrote a bunch of books, and I've read most of them. And he developed the concept of being anti-fragile. So you're either fragile, which means if something hits you, like he uses the dinosaurs. When whatever happened, the dinosaurs were wiped out, the insects remained. So if you remain small, relatively small, and that's why we're decentralized. We have you remain strong, which means don't take on a lot of debt, don't have employees that can't handle things, whatever. So anti-fragile companies or societies or people or whatever cities are those that if they get hit, then they actually get better. They get stronger because they take on the challenge and it makes them stronger. So I want to be an anti-fragile. I'm not saying we are an anti-fragile company. That's my goal, is to be anti-fragile. And that's why I tell everybody, and that's what we're trying to do.
So the long-term goal is not to be all these numbers, but stay anti-fragile.
I don't deal with numbers at all.
Yeah.
I don't set number goals.
Well, Anna, you've had a long career in horticulture. Were there events growing up that inspired you to go in this direction? If you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I wasn't really raised to go in the business because it was a time when women didn't go in business. So that's fine. That was the way it was back then. I'm sure I'm doing things that are equally maybe not right, but whatever, that's fine. And so I did a bunch of other things before, and I really didn't get in the industry till I was like almost 30. And that was just sort of because I needed a job, and I started working the company, and I went, wow, I didn't really know anything about it or what it did, and I was just amazed at how interesting it was and how challenging it was and how cool it was. And I mean, how fortunate was I to be born in this industry? I mean, I can't believe it.
That's great. Another topic I've been always curious about is the interaction between academia and industry. Mm-hmm. Since you've been around for 119 years, mm-hmm. how has your company interacted with academia? And of mm-hmm. course, academics have changed drastically over mm-hmm. that time. Could you talk a little bit about what your interactions have been, or maybe what would you prescribe the best interaction could be?
Yeah, I mean, short answer is not enough. There's not enough. There's not enough interaction. I mean, I've been here down now for 2 days, and fantastic experience. Very strong culture, by the way. I mean, I'm a student of culture, Aggies, yeah. And I just can't believe the strong culture. It's fantastic. But yeah, I see all sorts of, like how come academia and business aren't working more together? Not just our company, but just in general. Yeah. And I've always wondered that. And I've always, felt, I mean, you used to feel when you go to colleges that, they kind of looked down on business because it was like, oh, you're in this for the money and we're in this because, we love research, and, there's kind of arrogance on both sides kind of thing. I think there's less of that now because there's more practical, hey, we got to get going. But there's not enough interaction between industry and academia in general. And I think both of them have to get more respect for what the other does because, and if they do, I think they would work closer together. But we're working with different universities on different things. I mean, breeding or biotech or whatever. So there's things going on, just not enough.
Well, to just kind of, in the end, I wanted to ask you one question. With all your years of experience, what message could you give to our students and maybe our younger faculty? Where can they head to really make an impact in in resolving or addressing the challenges that are for climate change, extreme weather conditions? We have to be prepared for that. So students as well as our younger colleagues.
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say, just 10 things just came to my mind. I can't even sort them out. I would say that one thing I've learned is not to overreact to things. Okay, whether it's, I read The Population Bomb when I was in high school or college, and it said everybody was going to starve to death in the next 10 years. And I got anxiety over it. I was really concerned. I wrote papers about it, and and of course the opposite happened, right? The Green Revolution came, the starvation rates went down, and that really taught me that you just can't fall for things that are like the big trend, right? Like it doesn't matter what it is, but and climate change is a kind of an example. Of course, I believe in climate change. It's here. What caused it? Who knows? But it's not. I don't think it's dramatic as people are saying. So I don't think we should change our whole deal for climate change. I don't think we should change our whole way we work for anything that comes along like that. I don't care what it is. And there's been all these different things in my life that people are all upset about. Like I got caught in the IT. Remember the IT? Y2K. We did all this stuff. Nothing happens as dramatic or as quickly as you think. Yeah. So don't panic. I guess that's what I'm saying. Take a long-term view and don't panic, because you can get all caught up in something and then it just turns out to be not that great. So don't overreact. Don't panic on things. Think long-term. I mean, what I tell students is get in. I've gotten to know as I got older how important habits are. Yeah. Habits are super interesting. You can read. I'm sure you have, because you're a huge reader. But read a couple books on habits, and it's scary actually. Yes. So it's hard to get into habits, and once you get them, it's hard to break them. So get into habits, like the habit of reading. I read all the time. I just don't understand how people act and how people go about the world without reading. Right? That's my own view. So get in the habit of reading, because that's something that'll stay with you your whole life, that'll benefit you. Get in the habit of asking questions. Get in the habit of being curious. Get in the habit of traveling. And also get in the habit my dad always taught me that you have to be, as a leader, but I think as anybody, you have to be on the dance floor and in the balcony at the same time. You have to go back and forth. So you're a leader of your department. So sometimes you have to go get the tea, right? And sometimes you have to go and think, what am I doing? Where's this department going? How are things going? You have to go back and forth between the dance floor and the balcony. And I think it's important even for students to do that. Like sit back and say, okay, what is really happening here? A lot of people don't take any time to just reflect on things. Just reflect on things. And like my dad used to work, he called it working the notes. He would go out and he would travel and he would write down, he just wrote down everything. And then he'd go back, and I remember he'd have it on his lap and he'd be writing. I'd say, what are you doing? He said, I'm working the notes. He would work the notes to come down with like 3 main things that he got out of a week-long trip. Wow. Like, we're not, perennials is hot in the South, or whatever they are. And you have to condense it. You have to synthesize. Somebody said the future belongs to those who can collaborate and synthesize. And I thought that was interesting. So you have to synthesize and make things as simple as you can. And that takes a lot of thought. And that's hard work, and nobody likes to sit and think. But it takes sitting and thinking. So I would encourage people to sit and think. I don't do it nearly enough, but when I do it, it pays off. Yeah. So.
Well, did I miss anything?
No, I would just like to say that I just what I said before, I am super impressed with this place, with what you've done, with what the students. I mean, I talk to other students. These students are sharp, they're curious, they're interested, they're humble. They're all the things I like, so, it fits me, right? And you guys are working on really cool stuff, and it's a great culture, and it's a great place. I love it here.
Well, you're always welcome.
So thank you.
And thank you so much for your time, Alan.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for your questions. Okay.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Horticultural Innovators. Subscribe if you want to learn more and spread the good word. Thanks and gig 'em.